Neil Brown, welcome back to Shrink Wrap Radio.
Thanks for having me, David.
Yeah, well, it's good to have you back. It's almost a year, almost exactly, since our previous interview, which was Shrink Wrap Radio episode number 565. And in there, you told us about your work with parental burnout. That was the focus. And now, a year later, the wheel has turned, and you had the opportunity recently to consult on a large research study dealing with parental burnout.
Yeah.
And so that gives us the opportunity to have a part two today.
Yeah, well, it's a big subject. It's an important subject, as this recent survey discovered. Yeah.
Yeah, that really highlighted that to me. I didn't realize until you sent me a copy of that survey just how widespread a problem it is, and how big business, in fact, is taking it very seriously. So, tell us about the study. For example, who conducted this large research study?
Well, the Business Performance Network, which has their eye on the biggest challenges and innovations in business today. And so they conducted this survey of 2,000 parents in North America, the United States and Canada.
Yeah.
And what they discovered, maybe not surprisingly, but maybe, 60% of respondents said that they had experienced burnout in some form. To some degree, they had experienced a certain amount of burnout. And 60%, it's more than half of parents, it's up there. Now, what's really shocking, I think, about it is that 40% said that they were experiencing burnout to a significant or profound degree.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, interesting thing about the company that carried it out, it's a business-oriented company. And so the people who were the survey takers, they were, am I right that they were all in working for corporate jobs?
Not necessarily. No. But they did speak to the amount that their work influences their parental burnout. So a very high percentage said that managing the stress of their work requirements and keeping up with the home was a significant factor in parental burnout.
Mm-hmm. Right. Now, you didn't sponsor this study, right? But somehow they discovered you.
Yes, I'm familiar with the Business Performance Network, and knowing my work, they thought this would be an interesting piece. And so they went and did some inquiry, and sure enough, it was a very significant area that needs to come to the attention of the corporate world today.
Okay. And is there anything else that you can tell us about the research design of this study, and who the respondents were, the survey takers?
Well, the survey takers were all parents. That much.
Okay, good.
We know. They're all parents. They're male and female, and they're in many stages of life, with teenagers down to infants. They're both males and female, and doing different kinds of. They have different constellations in the home, some single parent families, divorced families, step parenting. So families with all different constellations and structures were responding.
Okay. And I think you said there were 2,000 of them.
Yes.
In the sample.
Yeah. So that's a pretty high sample. And now we know we've got reliability and significance when you get that big a sample.
Yeah, definitely. And so this would really suggest that parental burnout is a big issue, larger issue than I would have thought in our country, that people would own up to that. It seems to me that we all want to be great parents and think of ourselves as great parents. I would think it'd be a little hard to say, I'm really kind of burned out.
Yeah, I think it does take an anonymous, honest survey to get to that. 'Cause I don't know who else you're going to tell. Are you going to tell your kids? Are you going to tell your spouse? Are you going to tell your employer? Who are you going to tell? So
Yeah.
I think it is. I think this survey definitely surfaced a very significant issue. And what makes it so very significant for me, David, is that families really are going to be, really are the hub of our society. I mean,
Yeah.
as the family goes, so goes the development of children, and so many institutions are going to go or not go well based on how well the institution of the family is going. And if the family is in trouble, if the family is stressed, and the family is not functioning, not only not optimally but not well, that's something we have to sit up and take notice of.
Yeah, really. And of course, you're a family therapist, so you're kind of on the front lines. You're having the opportunity to see what's going on with dysfunctional families, and I know from our previous interview, you're able to help them.
Yeah, but Dave, maybe we even have to stop using the concept of dysfunctional families. If 40% of all families say they're experiencing burnout to a significant or profound level, well then, then I guess we're all dysfunctional. I
Okay,
mean,
maybe a better term would be stressed families,
yeah, I think
and we're
stressed
all
families, yeah.
yeah, stressed to various degrees. And um, so, what else do you recall from the findings? And I've got some notes here nearby. I can prompt you as needed.
Well, yeah, go ahead. Let's go with your prompts here, and we'll
Okay.
see what we
Okay.
got.
Well, uh, it, one place they wrote, topping the list of healthy parenting challenges are social media distractions. So we could talk about that one.
Of course, things have really uh, changed in the last, 10 to 15 years it, with the access of smartphones and social media. Um, it's not only just difficult for parents, but now they have to manage their kids who are now uh, engaged in social media all the time. So whereas a kid used to come home from school and that kid would be home from school, the other kids would be with their families. Now your kid is with their family. No longer. Now the kid is bringing his whole peer group or her own peer group home. And now they're engaging with their peer group, which is extremely stressful to that child or teenager. And it's very stressful to the parent who's trying to get the kid off it, but the kid doesn't want to get off it in spite of the fact that it's very stressful, because they feel like getting off it means they're going to disappear to their peers and they're
Yeah.
going to lose relevance.
And not just their peers, but also strangers. So there's the possibility that strangers are coming into the home to influence your child without you even knowing about it.
Well, that's very, very true, and it's very, very disturbing, and it's a high risk for many kids and parents to have that phenomena going on. Absolutely.
Yeah, I just read about another study that was cited in the neuropsychotherapist, and it was showing a high level of psychological disturbance among kids linked to the time that they spend on social media. And of course, we know some kids have been driven to suicide because this is such a critical stage of their development, is to fit in, as you just implied, that to fit in with their peer group, and and heaven help the child or the parent that somehow gets marked for bullying
Hmm.
or scapegoating.
Yeah, it gets shamed in some way. I mean, even in
Yeah,
some, I mean, you're right. If someone gets marked and someone gets picking on that kid, that is going to be I mean, kids have left their school and gone to other schools, or parents have chosen to homeschool, and all kinds of things from those horrible situations. But even the small slights that can go on are quite significant. You know, just
Yeah,
one comment about someone's weight or acne can be just enough to put a kid into a horrible state of mind.
right, right. And evidently, it's very common. I've read that kids are sleeping with their smartphones now. They don't. They don't want to. They can't afford to be separated from it, so it's right there in bed with them, and they may even be waking up during the night and reaching out to their friends and getting involved in conversations, etc.
Yes.
Which is not good for their sleep, which is also tied in to their mental health, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, so what we're talking about, David, is the profundity and the breadth of this problem, and it's going to be on parents to really put some early structures in place for use of devices in the home and out of the home, for that matter. They've got to learn etiquette of use of social media, and they also have to learn what the limits of access to social media and to their smartphones is. It should not be 24/7 access for children and teenagers, and it shouldn't be 24 access for parents, for crying out loud. You know, that's
Yeah,
not healthy
yeah,
for them either.
yeah. Really, really.
Yeah.
Well, another one of the highlighted points in the study was that in many cases, both parents were working, and this adds to both to the stress within the family, because the parents are, they're not home there with the child supervising all the time. And I had another point to go with that. Oh, it's harder for them, I think, to set some of the limits that you're talking about.
Yeah, because they're not there, and so often parents will say, "Well, I can't monitor them. I'm at work. What am I supposed to do?"
Yeah,
Right? You know, so
I
they
think that's a really challenge to today's parents to set the kinds of standards that need to be set, because immediately that's setting up a divide, that they're the bad guy. Well, she's got hers, hers all the time, and Johnny has his, and I don't even, and the pressure to get a smartphone too.
Oh, absolutely,
Huge pressure.
and
All my
some
friends
parents,
have one.
yeah,
You're
some kids are having before they can talk.
you're old fashioned. You're old fashioned. You're not with it today.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what
You
we're
must
hearing.
hear that from your clients, right?
Well, I hear that from the kids all the time.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Everybody smokes weed. I don't understand why you're so upset about if I smoke a little bit of weed. I'm getting
right.
decent grades. You know, I'm
Yeah,
not getting arrested or anything. I'm not using other drugs.
yeah,
Why are you so upset?
right. Yeah, they can always point to something more serious, right? And say, I'm not doing that.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. And so emotional and behavioral dysfunction in the family was cited as another one of the top things.
Right. So that's when I first became aware of this whole subject of parental burnout, was because when parents came to see me with an issue with their child or their teenager, they were virtually always in a state of parental burnout when they came. Uh, it's because, they had been working on the problem for a long time. As you know, no one wakes up one morning and says, "Hey, we got a problem. Let's go get some psychotherapy." If they have a problem, they try to solve the problem, and then
Yeah,
that doesn't work, and so then they try some more to solve the problem, and then they try some other things to solve the problem. Well, by the time they get in here, they've been working so hard at solving the problem that now they're living in the problem, and now the response to the problem and the problem are so intimate that now we have now we have an exhausted parent who's already in a state of burnout.
Yeah. Yeah. Going back to some of the findings, they say that the top three contributors to parental burnout are job or career related, and that nearly 30% of respondents point to pressure or exhaustion from work
Yeah,
or managing the home.
yeah, yeah.
And they say a similar number believe that financial concerns and demands or limitations are primary parental burnout.
hmm
Uh,
They're just trying to keep the whole thing afloat.
yeah,
Keep them in soccer shoes and everything else. It's not easy.
yeah,
I think, today in particular, to address the financial issue, there are people who essentially don't have huge financial pressures and they're doing fine and their income flow is good. And then there's everybody else. I mean, we really have lost the middle class, or our middle class is very thin. And so people are either struggling or they're in that, or they're in the group that aren't.
yeah. So this is systemic, really, of our where our country is right now, where our society is, and um, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
And
uh,
and to speak to the, some of the work pressures that parents are feeling, I really think it's going to be important, and I think that this is appearing in front of top corporations right now, and they're helping companies know what's really going on with their employees, because their employees are parents. That's a large percentage of their employees are parents. And if they ignore that fact and ignore that need for them to have support and flexibility to address their families and their families' needs, they're going to have a stressed out employee, and a stressed out employee is not going to do very well. I
yeah,
have several parents, in particular mothers, lately that I've been seeing have simply quit their jobs. Just quit. I said, look, I'm not being validated to be able to address our kids, and I can't keep doing this. My kids
yeah,
need me. I need to get home. I'm coming home.
yeah,
And then they'll get another job, but they'll wait until they have a job with an employer who is responsive. And they'll say, yeah, we just need the job done. So if you can, sometimes you can work from home. That's not going to be a problem. We'll need you here for certain meetings at times, but you know, let's all work together. We'll make it work. We like your skill set. We like what you have to offer us. And if you need to be a parent, then you need to be a parent. That can work for us. So, yeah.
I don't know how many of those kinds of jobs are out there. I know that maybe some of the large, if you're pretty high up in the corporate ladder, if you've got really great skills, then you can negotiate that kind of situation. But so many people are below that level,
Mm-hmm.
and that's just terribly taxing. One of the things they cite in the study, as you point out, that over 50 million American workers, they say, are enrolled in corporate wellness programs costing some 8 billion annually.
Mm-hmm.
So we hope that one of the results of this research that you were involved in is to wake them up to the fact that parental burnout somehow needs to fit into that corporate wellness program, that they need to be dealing with these issues somehow. I don't know whether
Yes.
that's by taking allowances or having special workshops where they hire you and bring you in.
Well, I think, if you think about it, they've got these corporate wellness programs, and a lot of these, in order for an employee to get services, say mental health services or help with a kid, they need a diagnosis. Either their kid has to get diagnosed, or they have to get diagnosed to be able to see a mental health professional. But what if we had, parent coaching as a service that could be provided? You didn't need to get a diagnosis for that. Let's just say you get 12 parent coaching sessions a year, or What if in the lunch hour they had speakers, or, once a month they had a parent group and the parents could all come together and talk about what's been going on and get some support from each other. Just acknowledging the fact that their employees are parents, and that's a hard job, and that they are stressed from it. That's a fabulous thing, because I think parents go to work and now they have to hide their stress. They have to hide the fact that they've got families that they have to figure out how they're going to feed tonight, uh, and fit in their workout someplace. They just have to acknowledge that their employees have these needs and have these families, and that would make a big difference right there.
Is that happening at this point on any kind of scale that you're aware of? The sorts of program possibilities that you're talking about?
I'm not hearing about it at all. And so I think it's a great opportunity that's out there for companies to latch on to.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you need to develop a prospectus and start approaching some of these places, because what you're describing is a great idea. It doesn't have to be terribly expensive, because it could be structured, some of it as peer support.
Oh, absolutely. It doesn't have to be expensive, and the other thing is it maintains employee retention, supports employee retention, and it supports employee loyalty, because they want to perform for a company that supports them.
Yes.
And it reduces absenteeism, so people don't have to call in sick to be able to address a problem, if they have that flexibility in there.
Yeah. You've got to develop some statistics on ROI, return on investment, because it may be possible to make a case that, in fact, not only would this not cost them anything, it might save them money.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's something that could come out of this research if you or somebody, puts the right package together and gets the ball rolling. And once you get it in, if you get into one or two significant corporations, then it could spread from there. You could
Yes.
stop
Yeah.
seeing people one-on-one if you want to, and just make the big bucks.
Well, I have spent time in corporate America. I am a management consultant, and I've worked in a number of different industries.
Okay.
So there are times when I make the big bucks, and,
Uh-huh.
and
Well, you
then
got your foot in the door.
yeah.
You got your foot in the door, and now it's just a matter of,
Yeah.
I say just a matter of,
Well, I had, as a psychotherapist, it felt to me after a number of years that I pretty much knew what happened in the family rooms, the kitchens, the living rooms, and the bedrooms throughout the region. I just already knew what was going on there, but I really didn't know what was going on when people went to work. What are they doing there? They going to
Yeah,
work. What is project management? What projects are they managing anyway? I just didn't
yeah,
really quite get it. So and it was also a time that managed care was coming in very strongly. And I thought, managed care is going to take the profit out of my career here. That doesn't look very good. I'm trying to raise a family here.
yeah,
I better find another way to make a living. So I got myself some training in management consulting, because I am a systemic thinker and organizations are systems. And I started meeting other management consultants, and eventually some management consulting firms hired me as a foot soldier in their world. And then eventually I've started getting my own clients, and I worked in the management consulting world, so I did learn actually what happens when people go to work, and I thought that was really fascinating. But I also learned things in management consulting that helped me as a family therapist too, about how to be more strategic and focused and get clear goals and have a strategic plan, and all those kinds of things that can really help run a family well.
yeah. I'm glad this comes up, because some percentage of my listeners are therapists of one stripe or another, or students who are planning to become therapists. And it seems like there is a real niche here. And in some areas of the country, there are just tons of therapists, on the two coasts. So the therapists are, uh, you know, having to be more entrepreneurial, having to figure out specialized niches. And I think you've just kind of described one, that they might do well to look into getting management training and as well as systems and family training to develop a specialty.
I agree. I think that is a great opportunity for a lot of therapists, because a lot of management consultants don't have some of the people skills and the intuitive skills and some of the communication skills that a lot of therapists have learned and developed.
Yeah. I've got some percentages that they gave in this study here. They said the challenges of our modern society include, and these are things that people checked off, 29% said social media distractions were a big issue. Both parents working, 27% of the sample was two-parent families. Emotional or behavioral dysfunction, maybe with the kids or the parents, that was 24% of the sample, check that. Peer expectations and competition for the kids, for example, bullying, that was 21%, check that.
Mm-hmm.
Violence and safety concerns in the school, 18% of the parents check that. They, in terms of some of the other factors, lack of cooperation from children or teenagers, 33%, check that.
Mm-hmm.
Pressure or exhaustion from work or managing home, 29%. Financial concerns, pressures or limitations, 29%. Too many digital devices and social media, 26%. Overloaded commitments and activities involving the children, 21%. Now, my daughter, she's got three kids, three of our grandkids. And like so many parents, the parents who are stay at home right now, she wants to be at home and has been for some time. But she spends all of her time driving,
Mm-hmm.
driving the kids to this activity, that activity, to the stay over, to this class and that class. So the kids have, in fact, very little downtime to kind of explore their inner world and fall back on their own creativity. So that's another one of and they have no playmates in the neighborhood.
Right.
It's not considered safe to play in the neighborhood anymore.
Yeah. When you and I were growing up, I'm guessing the you part, but I know it's true for me, is you came home from school and your mother would say, go out and play.
Yes, exactly.
And you'd go out and, you'd you'd connect with all the other kids in the neighborhood whose mothers told them to go out and play.
Yeah.
And you'd get a ball game going, or a game of guns. We used to call it guns, where, you'd get a stick and, you'd hide one place until
Cops and robbers, cowboys and Indians.
Yeah. So all that stuff was going on. And then sometimes we even got, as we got older, did things like made go-karts and things like that, or actually organized ball games and things. So
yeah.
Not anymore. Now, if a kid comes home, they're going to be alone at home, and they're not going to know what to do with themselves. So they're going to get on social media. It is a challenge.
Yeah. Boy, it sure is. And video games too. That's a huge chunk of kids' time these days.
And of course, on video games now, kids have relationships. So they're playing video games with, maybe kids that are friends of theirs from school, and maybe kids from around the world. They might be playing with someone from a different country entirely, or a different hemisphere.
Yeah, and those can be positive things. So I think that, again, it comes down to setting some limits as to what's a sensible amount of time that the kid should spend in that kind of activity. And also, if the parent is involved as well. I mean, I know there's some families where the parents particularly the younger set of parents today, you know, who are in their late 20s or 30s, and they've grown up with some of this. And so they get right in there playing video games with their kids.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. They go skateboarding together and they go play games
That's a good
together.
thing, where there's not as much of a gap as there is for you and me
Right.
as grandparents. I assume, are you a grandparent?
Not currently.
Not yet,
So
not
not yet.
currently. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Not yet.
we just had our sixth grandchild, so
Ah,
I'm having
congratulations.
trouble remembering ages and names and so on. A different set of
Uh-huh.
issues.
David, one thing I think is important for us to talk about is like what can parents how can parents begin to think about parenting in a way where they can be more efficient and they can get more cooperation, because those are big deals. Managing the home and getting cooperation from your kids are two huge deals in the whole in the whole paradigm here that the parents are struggling with.
Yeah. So, how does a parent become more efficient? What are you getting at there?
Well, here's what I'm getting at. What I think can make a huge difference is if we start integrating kids at an early age in the home functions. Kids need to learn how to clean. Kids need to know how to do laundry. Kids need to know how to organize. Kids need to know how to cook. If we could have kids involved, and if we could have kids involved in household responsibilities at an early age, with the idea, you matter, we need you. When we were an agrarian society, kids would wake up at the crack of dawn and they'd be out there feeding the pigs and feeding the chickens. Well, dad did other chores and mom did other chores. That's how it worked. Kids were included in making things work, and maybe they worked a
Yeah.
couple of hours before they went to school. Well, we have this idea now that kids are only supposed to do one thing. They're supposed to do their homework and they're supposed to do their activities, and everything else, it's like, is a struggle. Getting a kid to clean their room, to make their bed, to clean the bathroom, to do any of these things, is the kids go to the refrigerator. There's nothing to eat. They don't know how to prepare anything. If you have to take two ingredients and do something with them, it's like there's nothing to eat. It's got to be one ingredient.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know? So I think from a point of view of getting families being more efficient, more inclusive, having healthier kids, more responsible kids, if we can get the notion that they matter and not get into after we've told kids that all they have to do is schoolwork and activities, then try to change that and come back and say, well, why didn't you clean your room? Or how about if you touch a vacuum cleaner once in a while? Or, gee, do I have to pay you to wash the damn car? I mean, what if these are normal household functions that need to get done on a regular basis, and we include our kids and engage our kids in doing those activities at an early age and continue it all the way through adolescence?
I think there are a couple of really key things there that I want to highlight. One is getting started at an early age, and the other is that the core message is I value you. You're an important person, and you're part of a loving family in which we all love each other and do everything we can to support each other. And that then, instead of these being chores and the parent is the boss cracking the whip to
Yeah,
do the chores,
yeah.
it's more of an inclusive, loving thing. And it's
It's
getting
part,
that message across and getting it across early enough. That's the key to this, I think.
it's part of belonging. You know,
Hmm.
I'm a member of this family. I'm not an object of this family. I'm not a pawn in this family that gets moved around. I'm actually an integral part who is loved and loving, and everything I do is appreciated, and everything I get is appreciated. So we need to we need to think about how we're parenting, I think, fundamentally differently. We have to stop trying to control kids, and we have to engage kids, communicate with kids, connect with kids, and include kids. They matter. We need them. The other thing I think that's relevant to this is the way we're eating as a society. We're not eating healthy anymore. We're eating out. We're eating prepared foods. We're eating on the run. So many families are not eating together
Yeah,
anymore, and there's
right.
so, and since they don't eat together, they're not even bothering to prepare food if it doesn't come from, you know, it's takeout, or it's fast food, or it's a burrito, or it's you know, there are some, I can't say everything that we get that's out is unhealthy, but for the most part it is unhealthy, and we're not learning to cook. We're not
Yeah,
learning to cook healthy food and make beautiful salads and learn how to prepare food and eat food. Kids should be, you know, boys and girls, and it's not a female home economics thing. It's a, we all need to learn how, we're going to be eating our whole lives. We should be cooking our whole lives. We're going to be making messes our whole lives. We need to clean up our whole lives. This is just part of life.
you know what? I keep coming up with good ideas for you. You ought to be on PBS. There should be a series on parenting on PBS, and just making these, you know, because that can be important. TV reaches so many people that way.
Mhm.
There've been some significant, you know, psychologists who've served that kind of function, and what you're saying is so basic. It's just good basic common sense that we've kind of gotten away from, I
I
think.
think so. I think so.
Yeah,
I mean, we've focused on so many models of parenting that we've lost the essential ingredient, that kids are an integral part of their families, and we need them and they need us, and we're going to work together to get to live life in a way that's joyful and functional.
yeah, yeah. Was there anything in this study that surprised you? Any of the findings that surprised you?
What surprised me, David, because I'm in my office, and in my office, I'm seeing clients that are self-selecting to come in here and say, we're having problems. What surprised me was the epidemic proportions of what's going on with parental burnout. How 60% of parents relate to the concept at a personal level. 40% of respondents are saying significant to profound. That's, you know, that's illness. That's, they're getting sick. When it's significant and it's profound, they're getting sick. They're not sleeping well. They're having anxiety. Their kids are missing out on hitting developmental milestones in terms of maturation. This is this, and they're doing unhealthy behaviors. This is significant stuff, and I just had no idea that it is as ubiquitous and widespread as it is.
Yeah, me either. Well, you know, we're probably at the place where we could wind this down. Uh, is there anything that you'd like to say to kind of tie a pretty bow on it, if a pretty bow is possible?
Well, I think there is a pretty bow, and it has to start with parents knowing that who they are as a full person, not just as a parent, not just as an employee, and not just as a spouse, but they're a person, and as a person, they have needs that have to get met. They need support. They need me time. They need to be more than a role. They need to kind of break out of what am I going to do about my kid and ask the question, what do I need? And there needs to be time for me, for parents. So their needs matter. They need support. They need personal time, and they need more cooperation from their kids. They need to get out of control battles and have higher standards and let kids do more. Invite kids to do more, invite their spouses to do more, ask more help from their friends when they need it. We need to validate the needs of parents.
Well, that's a great charge to us all, to everybody out there. So I want to thank you, Neil Brown, for being my guest again today on Shrink Wrap Radio.
Thanks, David. It's always a pleasure to be here.